Three, two, one. Hello,
Hello,
and
everyone.
hello, hello, Natasha, and welcome along to today's Mindful Leadership podcast. Hello, hello, and we're really excited today to come together and share both Natasha and I's and the stories that I'm sure we've both experienced in our lives. Our focus today is all about what are the constraints in your life, those things that are making you feel trapped and are holding you back. We'll talk a lot about our own journeys, about those same constraints and those limiting beliefs. And then also we'll talk about experiences about, of course, how we've been able to break free from some, maybe all of these, or maybe it's a journey. And like our previous episodes, we'll also come on to a mindfulness meditation at the end. And we would love to have you on our show as a guest. We've got a few guests already slowly lining up, and we're really excited to invite more people on to come along each week and come in and join in our unedited, very raw and transparent and fun podcast. And so, yeah, we'd love to have you on as well. Okay, well, let's get started. And it's a really funny subject, like feeling trapped, because I wanted to start with you, Natasha, and I'm sure you'll be asking me loads of questions too. Is like, let's start with the hard question, right? Like, what's been your biggest limitation constraint that's made you feel trapped in recent years?
So I think there's quite a few of them that I've gone through, some kind of personal and some in work. So, for example, for me, it's really feeling stuck in a way or worrying about what people think. So, for example, when I went from working very much in the corporate sector to kind of like into really supporting spiritual health and mental and emotional health, I was really worried about the judgment of people and what they would think of me had as I move into doing something that's totally, or a side of me that they hadn't seen before. Like I remember having conversations with a lot of my colleagues and they turn around and go, wow, that's quite profound. And I was like, I have this whole spiritual knowledge behind me, or this kind of like all these concepts behind me that we feel we can't talk about, which is very, very interesting, because a lot of the times when you do start talking about them, we realize that other people also have the same feelings. But I went to the detriment of creating two Facebook groups, being one personality, still continuing to be kind of like corporate me and then kind of spiritual me, kind of a thing. So because I was worried about what the judgment would be. And it's quite interesting because when I decided to switch careers to my husband at the time, I said to him, we might lose some friends. And he said one of the most profound things he's ever said to me was that he said to me, are they really worth having if they can't accept you for who you are? And that's really, really stuck with me in that is trying to be authentically myself always. And I talk a lot about this with my clients in the senses I've really learned that truly that it is important to always authentically be ourselves, which is why in another way this is unedited, because you get to see who we really are. Because those that are in alignment with us will be in alignment with us and will attract those that are, and those that aren't, we're just not for everybody. And a lot of the times that has kept me stuck in that, what will people think? What will they say? What will they think? Will I lose my credibility if I show this side of me? And I think we end up wearing different masks all the time in work, home, all the rest of that, because we worry about that. And that sometimes, for me, has kept me, at least in that transition period until I did that jump over that cliff to say, no, this is who I am. That kept me stuck in the, but what will this look like? I need to be corporate. I need to be in this box because people have put me in, I've put myself in this box and people see me in this box. So I need to remain in this box. At least that was one of the times where I felt kind of like really stuck in the sense of really wanting to support people, but not wondering how they would judge me. I think that was one aspect that I faced earlier on when I started to switch into doing something else that I truly loved.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely resonates with me. And I'm sure many people. I'm really interested in Natasha in the box. So corporate Natasha in the box, right? This box you've created for yourself, and no doubt reinforced by a lot of others around you, right? Like, if you ever bring up things outside of the box, you'll receive a response of some degree. For the Natasha outside of the box, did you also have was there like a barrier both ways? I can't do this properly with my hands, can I? Like, was there a divide in the middle that was never crossed by either side of you? Like, was the corporate versus the kind of more spiritual side of you, was there any crossover either way?
No, I think there's always crossover. I mean, like, remember, I used to do marketing, so the creative aspect of us, where we're constantly creating and trying to figure stuff out. So it's really about using that. Now there's a complete crossover in the sense where I will use the Akashic records and look at the blueprint of a business to actually see, okay, or a project, and we'll go in and we'll go, these are the different avenues that are available. So the other day I was kind of like stuck with an issue, and I was like, ended up needing, for example, I've invested in a bioresonance machine, and I had ordered one from Portugal because I found a really, really good price. But then at the second time, I had committed to that. And I put down €100 deposit, included all the training, and that got sent out. And then it came through that I had a really a good price. Somebody came through from China, and it's like, so business, I would have turned around and go, no, absolutely, the one from China is the one that I need to go with. But then these guys in Portugal that I'd committed to were going to be stuck with a machine on their shelves, couldn't sell it for English anywhere else. And I was like, what am I going to do? Kind of thing. Consciously, I'm like, I have committed here, you know, in a normal kind of like business sense, I'm committed there. And I was like, what do I do? So I did. I went into the Akashic Records and they were like, just sell the other one. It's as simple as that. It's a win-win. And I never would have generally have thought of that because we're just so conditioned to think one way or the other.
That's
And I'm
brilliant.
like, I'm trying to be like a good business person, but I'm also
Yeah.
trying to be a really good conscious person. And I was stuck. And the
Mm.
funny thing is that I went to go do a bioresonance session. And one of the issues that came up was a moral dilemma. So I literally laughed out loud because it was just as I was trying to negotiate what
Mm.
was happening, because I was like, surely the €100 covers it if I've missed it, but they hadn't, created that. I was ready to lose that, but in that session, yeah, moral dilemma came up, and I was like, oh no, it wasn't moral, it was ethical dilemma came up, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh
How
my
did you
goodness,
know?
how did you know? How did this machine know? It must be real.
So
Um,
cool.
So I very much use the meditation practices, the intuition. I really do go into using a lot of spirituality in business as well. Now, I absolutely cross that over. And it was quite interesting when it came to that because we're always on purpose and nothing happens by accident. And when I did start going into, okay, supporting people, I suppose with Reiki, craniosacral therapy, and Akashic Records, I thought, I have 16 years of marketing experience. There's no reason I didn't do this for nothing. How does it fit? And then I was like, oh, start doing Akashic Records for business. And then it started to inform a lot of decisions, or it's information that is there. It really started to get ideas or solutions that I wouldn't have thought of before, and that tends to help quite a bit. Although, again, being authentically me, I have people coming to me to do that specific, just like people come to you to do psychic reflexology. There's that specific that is there, and we attract those people that are in alignment with it, and those that aren't, it's okay. And I think sometimes we get trapped in kind of like, no, we need to be all things for all people,
Hmm.
and we don't.
Yeah.
I don't know, how have you experienced being
Um,
or trapped?
Oh, so many traps, so many constraints, and a real long list. And I want to go back in time to just over 2 years ago. So it's about 2 years and a month. And I was a senior manager in a big corporate company, a big global company. Um, I was running three teams doing artificial intelligence in recruitment, and we were innovating with it was quite controversial, especially back then. Doing artificial intelligence with anything to do with people, right? And like making sure it's responsible and fair and not just ethical, but really raising the bar. And and my team or teams that I was managing, we were going through a lot of churn. People were struggling with the stress and anxiety. I had some managers leave. I was picking up more and more jobs. I think at one point I counted 5 different people's jobs that I was doing, and some alarming. So there's lots of red flags for me, like my health was one aspect. That was like my body was like, we can't go on, Jon. My body's like, we can't do it. And I would meditate. I'd been meditating for maybe 5 or so years every morning. But it was like, you'd start the morning nice and calm, go on a morning run, do a bit of gym, do a meditation, and then the stress would be huge throughout the day, and a very long working week. And this is many of us like around the world, right? And the first challenge I had is I didn't really know a way out of that at all. That was my constraint. Was like my first biggest constraint was just I didn't know that other things were really possible. And when you're focused on your 9 to 5 or whatever it was, 8 till 9 p.m. job, when you're focused on that, it's a very human thing, right? You tightly couple these things together. It's like, I do this to get money to survive, and that I am surviving. I'm putting a roof over my wife and 2 kids head. I'm paying for us to be able to exist. And it's funny saying those things because almost none of those are true, right? And the really funny thing is that what I was doing was creating a whole series of ever increasingly tighter and tighter constraints around myself. So these limiting beliefs, and so some examples were I started spending more money frivolously because I was earning a lot of money, but I couldn't see a way out of the job that I was in because I quite enjoyed the job. I quite enjoyed the company. Didn't see that anywhere else would be better. So that was one constraint. And then the next thing was, well, I almost don't have enough time to hire these other 5 people, which is ironic. It's like it's never going to be better. So that was another constraint. And then I was like, but I don't know what else I would do. Like, even if I wasn't in the industry at that time, what else would I do? And there was music, and there was my spiritual kind of hobby thing of doing, energy clearing and healing for people. But it was just like once or twice a week. And I didn't know that people did it. I didn't know that people like you, Natasha, doing it as a job. I didn't even know it was like an industry at that time. And then there's all the other things like, a car, a house that was largely too big, a mortgage that was, going on for decades ahead. And just this ever tightening, like feeling that all these things that I do each day were getting smaller and smaller and constraining me more and more, even in my work. And all I was doing was working harder and harder, and that this was just going to end up with me going off sick. And I would have counted myself lucky for that being the only kind of consequence, of just having to take time off or unpaid leave. And I definitely resonate with that separation. Like I did do a little bit of music at work, but I found it really hard to tell people that it was my music's inspired by daily meditation messages, and I talk to spirit guides when I do it. And when I was brave enough to share with other people, they would kind of like, they're always really gentle with me. They'd just be like, oh, I don't really know what that is, but it sounds like there's maybe this other aspect of you that you're tapping into, or another aspect of the universe. And like they would translate it into their own belief system. And I was like, oh, maybe I could share more of this. And I feel like some of it, yeah, I did also have some experiences of sharing on social media, and friends back then were like, "What happened to Jon? Like, is he going through some sort of like midlife crisis?" And it's like, if it only was that simple, that would have been easy. um, and and that filled me with fear and patterns, that made me believe that, like, I would add more constraints, almost like I had people saying, "Don't do spiritual music. Don't do. Why do you talk about meditation all the time? Why can't you just do cover songs and just, fit in this box that I'd love you to fit in, because I quite like you in that box." Um, and yeah, I feel like I'm kind of going on to some of the solutioning, but the actions that I took. But I also wanted to recap on some of the things that people have been telling me. So these are some people that we've been talking to about coming on as guests, and also clients and friends. Some of the themes I've heard are, I feel trapped in my job, just full stop. And people, when you and when I've said, like, you know who's trapping you, like, it's you, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's easy for you to say." It's like, well, it is, but it is true. like
Yeah.
you're the one that decides to go to that job, and I'm not saying it's easy. Of course, it might be one of the hardest things you do in your life, but it's still your choice. Other people saying they're trapped where they live, which is interesting. That I definitely had some feelings with that. And knowing that there's an investment required, like, you need to put your house on the market if you own it. There's like research you need to do. Maybe you'll lose out. What about if your kids are in school, etc.
Yeah.
And then another big thing was people saying, "I'm stuck, but I don't know why."
Yeah.
And that was also like me. I was like, I definitely know this is all broken. Like, this is, then it's getting worse every day. But
Yeah.
what do I do? And that feeling of stuck is horrible. Like, you feel so, I felt so imprisoned. I just felt I created this big, and so much of it was obsessing about money, which was a total, yes, it's a part of the kind of matrix of constraints I'd created, but it was only one aspect.
What was the turning point for you when you were like, okay, enough's enough?
Um, there was a few things that were happening. I guess one was I remember I'd wake up every morning, do my meditation, do my run, sit down in the office, and I remember I'd feel this kind of heaviness in my chest, and it felt like, when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I used to smoke. And I remember when I woke up in the morning, I remember my lungs would feel quite horrible. And it reminded me a little bit of that. It was like almost like this kind of weight on my chest. And then I started noticing this pattern that whenever I had a bad meeting at work, or I considered it to be bad, because I'm sure I was pretty sensitive sometimes, when people were like, "You could do these things," and I'm like, "Oh, if only they would understand." And I would, instead of speaking my truth, I'd hold back and I'd absorb all that negative energy, and it physically felt so constraining for me. And that was one of the health things that I knew was going in a direction that just felt really bad. And so when a friend, and I think she called it a wellness reading, and I describe it more like a kind of remote Reiki session that she did for me. She did this while I slept, and she's on the other side of the planet. And I remember waking up the next day, and this whole feeling had lifted. And I was in such shock, because my son had been up all that night, and he'd been struggling to sleep. And I was like, "Whoa, there's a whole different dimension that I'm of myself that I'm ignoring." And it was such a transformation. It just felt like I'd been on holiday or vacation for a couple of weeks. So that was a big thing, like knowing that there was something more that could positively affect me than perhaps I was even really aware of. And then another thing was, seeing the stress and anxiety impact on others. And I saw them as a future version of me. And it included people that went off sick, people that, so maybe for days or a few weeks or longer. And then also, like, sadly losing a colleague as well, who, when they died, I was like, I never want to put myself in that position. and I never want, or my family, and I want to do my best to help others too. And I know I can't fix that one
Mm-hmm.
person, and I can't fix the world, but I can at least, start by leading by example and sort myself out. Um, because I built a really high tolerance to stress and anxiety, and that was quite terrifying. So yeah, and some of those actions I took, were one of the first things I did was go part time, and it was it was a really funny thing because I just said to my wife, said, I'm thinking of going part time. She said, well, what would that mean financially? I said, well, I don't really know. I'd need to do some research. I'm guessing something like if I work 3 days, well, I said 4 days a week initially. And she said, well, why not three? Because then, you're not actually just working 5 days in 5 days of effort in 4 days, calendar days. And plus, they'll probably negotiate you anyway up to four. It's like, okay, well, let's go with three. And I was transparent about it. I said, oh, I want to do more meditation, energy healing. I want to learn some stuff. And this is what I told my work. And you fill out a form and you like apply, and then you go through HR and your director. And to my shock, they said yes to the 3 days a week. And what it did for me, I mean, it sent ripples through my life, right? It changed almost everything, and really quite quickly. And I feel like a big thing for me was the exploration part, because I'd also said I was doing these things, so I didn't feel so guilty, and I knew that contractually I couldn't work for another company. But I knew that I could try these other things. So that big feeling of stuckness, but what else do I do? I've just spent at that time, 24 years in software engineering. What else can Jon do?
Yeah.
And of course, how can I provide for my family, etc. But it made me realize that the first thing I need to do is find out what I like doing, because if it's not this career, I need to find the thing that I do like doing, and then find a way to build a business in that domain.
Absolutely. No, yeah, it's quite scary. For me, I actually found myself, I'm usually quite chilled and relaxed. And when I got to that stages where I was just like up to here, I would get the smallest little thing and I would just get so angry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would really get angry. And it was the slightest thing that wouldn't annoy me earlier, but it was like one thing on top of the other. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And again, it was the physical aspect for me that really was just like, okay, my health, my body's telling me like enough is enough. And that's how I jumped into that journey. But for me, I was lucky because my ex-husband was the one who, like, good on him, like took on that extra pressure, because it was two salaries, we went down to one. Where I did all this learning as well. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity to have been able to do that. But a lot of my clients don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and a lot of what my clients tend to say is one, even if they're switching from one job to another, is, do I have the same skill set? And then if you've been with a company for such a long time, you know everyone, you know how things work. So sometimes it's hard to jump ship as well into something else. And you don't know if it's better on the other side, but one never knows, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. And
That's true.
I want to talk about fear. I was so scared.
Yeah.
I was terrified. Like it was eating me alive. Like my fear was just like, it was so intense for really two years, almost like to the month. And that fear started with, as I was saying, like, but I just don't know what else I would do. And so that was scary because and then as I started doing more of this work, and a bit like I was learning a bit about manifestation, and then I was like helping some clients with that too. I started to realize I see the fear through a constraint, or a limiting belief like this is a door, and that there's this big, ugly, like horrible, dark fear or being stood in front of it. Yeah. And they're like, I'm never going to tell you what's on the other side.
Yeah.
but I want you to be terrified about that door. And I was like, no, like, but what's on the other side? Please, like, please just tell me just a little glimpse. No, like, you're not allowed to know. It's like it's some sort of universal law. No one's going to tell you what's on the other side of that door, because if you knew, you wouldn't be scared, and you wouldn't be able to step through address your own fear if you didn't know, if you already knew what was there. Because it'd just be like, yeah, I got a promotion by, just by leaving my company, and now I'm just working for myself, and it's even better. And I knew that. Yeah, I just knew that already. Like that, the universe doesn't work like that, fortunately or unfortunately. And I feel like, for me, for me, in the first year in particular of going part-time, I was just terrified I was going to lose my job, which is so funny. It's like the irony is beautiful, right? It's like I would go into meetings on a Tuesday morning and I'm like, oh, how were things while I was off for, 4 calendar days or 2 working days? Oh, John, you missed this, that, and the other. And I'm like, they're going to fire me because because I wasn't there, even though they don't pay me on those days, even though, and including the weekends, I'd be like, that's me. I'm done. Like, where's all this going? But equally inside of me, I knew that there was also a trajectory where I was leaving anyway. And only really in the second year did I start to gradually traverse. And I think probably in the last 6 months or so, did actually consciously make a decision. And in that journey, I saw there was a door. And I was like, in the second year, I was like, John, it's actually a door and you're actually terrified of it. Like, and I started vlogging. So I think it was December last year, I started doing a private vlog. And I was like, John, you're terrified. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. 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 It's actually quite funny because we turn around and go, what is the fear? And it's like diving into it. And we usually say, what you resist will continue to persist. So choose it. Choose it, because then choose the fear, because then you're getting in front of it. Like you say, you're looking at that monster in the face and you're going, okay, like, let's see it as a challenge. Like, let's like, how, move through it. And a lot of us talk about, if you're not living in a space where you're pushing yourself, where it is a little bit scary on the other side of that. I mean, starting this podcast, for example, and then it's not big enough. And I think it's about pushing ourselves to excel as well. And the other thing is, sometimes it's like you say, it's not only about moving jobs, but speaking to your manager, creating the job that you desire, even where you are in your current position, right? Because, like, looking at what do you enjoy doing, because what you enjoy doing is what you're really good at, and that's what allows time to move faster. It helps you to step into your creativity. And perhaps it's like, not asking if it can pass on aspects of your job that you don't really enjoy, which somebody else would enjoy, kind of a thing. So it's looking at, like you say, having that conversation, saying, hey, I really need 3 days a week, and you were surprised that they said yes. And it's the other thing that I talk about. Like, some of my clients are wanting to move positions, or there's positions that are coming up, and I'm like, write your ideal job description and your ideal salary, and let's manifest that. Right? Put it down on paper. What is it that you enjoy? Because I think that's it. A lot of the times we don't know what we like.
Yeah.
We don't.
That's the key, right? That's the key to the door. And you're totally right. And I saw so many people that I worked with, and still, and clients today, who would tell me this, and they'd say things like, "Oh, I'm thinking of leaving my job," and you'd say, "Oh, why?" And the answer was never, because my dream is this and I'm going to be this. The answer is always because of these horrible things I don't like about the job.
Yeah.
And it's like, now, just to be totally clear, there is an entire infinite of universe of things that you can hate about the job, right? And it goes on and on and on, and it's unique and different for everybody. But there's only one, like, dream life that you really want to achieve, and it's totally unique to you. And it's much more finite in its definition, or it's easier to at least, feel it, draw it, write it, talk about it. And that was a huge leap for me. I did that in December. I did my first, and it's so funny because at the company I worked at, they did this whole thing all the time, and they did it very publicly, where they take the future, like, 3 years in advance, and then write the thing, like the products you want for your customer. And I thought, well, that's kind of good, but it didn't really cover me and my family. So I added in loads of things, and like the behaviors about my own, like, tenets about how I wanted things to happen. I didn't want to just earn a ton of money and be super unhappy again. I wanted to, have like freedom of traveling and a great work-life balance and be so excited and passionate about the work, and that they're all tied together as what is success for me. And so I wrote this future vision and started sharing it with people, and it's so fascinating. It was so vulnerable. First of all, I was like, are they gonna, like, I don't know, fire me as their as their coach because they don't agree with what my vision is, which is a really funny aspect of fear. But everyone that's read it has been, and it's pretty, like, it starts out pretty woo woo, right? It starts out like, I'm gonna help, like, rebalance darkness and light in the universe, because that's one of my beliefs I want to help with, and then I kind of work backwards from there, and how my dream life will be. And recently I put it on my website under jonbinnie.com about me, and you can see it there. And I also found it really helpful because when I'm in these conversations with people, I just say, like, you can see this is the thing I work from every day. I read it every morning and I go in and I tweak it because I'm always evolving my dream life. And I talk to my wife, I talk to my kids, and that is the thing that I'm heading towards all the time, every day. And as soon as I wrote it, like, it painted for, like, I imagine this visual of this door of fear suddenly became totally outlined. It was like there's this beautiful bright white like light of, like, my future vision, but in front of it was this big door of fear, completely dark and locked. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I've got to. That's it, Jon. We've done it. Like, we found out that's the thing we need to get through. It's just it's that one thing I need to do. And I know that, like, all these metaphors and techniques, they apply to not just our careers, right? It's like every single thing in our lives, including right behind me, there's a big garage full of junk that I need to sort through later in the week. Like, all these things have their own doors of fears. And is that something that you did that you've done in your life, Natasha, like creating out your dream life?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know what my dream life was at that time as well. And then it's also shifting that mindset of, it's like, I need to make X amount of money every month, right? I need to at least make this. And the hardest part for me was shifting into looking not only at the financial value, but time value as well. I mean, I've got a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and it's a very short time while they're still at home. So looking at that, where do you bring in that balance, right? And where do you do something that you love? Because I have this tendency to be a workaholic. Like, I love what I do. Even when I was in corporate, like, I loved and I believed in the companies. I was so grateful to work for the companies that I did. They also technology, also, pushing the boundaries of society, pushing the boundaries of technology. And I've learned a lot from the managers and, the people there. And I was like, how do I carry that over? Right. And it's it's letting go of that fear of the unknown or the certainty. And I think certainty is a glass ceiling for us, because I think as humans, we want to be certain that this is what's going to happen. And because we are certain that this is going to happen, it actually caps what we want to happen, right? Because you could have that or something more or whatever it may be. But it was very much okay. And that's how it worked. I was like, okay, to replace my salary, I need to do X amount of sessions a month, and they need to cost this amount, right? And when you started kind of like bringing in that little bit of logic into it, it started to show, okay, wait, maybe there is a possibility of that as well. And my fear was going out and asking people how I could support them. Meanwhile, they were waiting for it. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was that aspect of asking, saying, hey, I'm running this course that I really think would benefit you. Feel into it, see how it works. That ask. I was just like, oh my God, rejection, 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 kind of a thing. And it wasn't. And I was like, what's the worst that could happen? They can just say no. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're rejecting me. It means that it's not in alignment with them right now. And that's okay, kind of a thing. So, and I think that was one of my fears of kind of like, I need to do this, I need to do. And I did. And a lot of the times I was spinning my wheels, doing a lot of work in that sense for like, only helping a few, but it's like, no, now it's shifting in the sense of how can I be of service? The financial backing will come.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that was the hardest concept for me in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of needing to control that, because it's like, yes, absolutely, we need to action, but we also need to be agile, like you say, constantly tweaking what it is that we're doing, but holding that vision. And sometimes I'd be holding that vision and I'd be like, I have no idea how this is going to happen. And it's like, nope, just believe in it. Just like it's going to happen. And then all of a sudden we'd get a call or something that would shift. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is how it's unfolding. And I think that was the fear of the unknown, of the, I don't know how it's going to happen. I am going to start actioning towards whatever like my dream is. And yeah, I started looking at the value of money and the value of time very differently. Because I started looking at it from a space of, I think when I was working through it was a space of lack, a fear of not having it. Whereas now it's more of a, okay, how can I be of service? And then who can I support? And then that brings in the funds from that. But it's also, I'm still trying to get that work-life balance, because if I get any inkling, I'm like, because I love what I do as well, it's like, yeah, I could do this all the time, right? I mean, I had 3 jobs at a stage. I've always like, I started working when I was 15, and even then I was like, I finished like my high school in South Africa. I had, I was studying at college and I had 2 jobs. Like I was like, my mom, even before I had my driver's license, was picking me up at one job. I was getting changed in the car to go to my next job. Right. And when I was in Edinburgh, like literally there was Fridays I'd work 21 hours. I was 21
Wow.
at that time. I'm like, who needs sleep, right?
Yeah.
And I got to a stage in my life where I was like, if I'm not working or sleeping, I feel like I'm wasting time. And that was like a whoa,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing. That was like, holy smokes, you need to slow down. So now I try and look at the value of the time that I have. So being flexible enough now to schedule my days where I can have breakfast with the girls. I can have dinner, at least a sit down dinner with the girls as well. And then that's kind of like, and then in between that, I'll do what I want to do. But it's that fear of like, how do I put food on the table if I don't work these amount of hours, right? But it's a
Mm-hmm.
blink, and they've grown up and they've moved, and like, how do you manage that,
Yeah.
part of things? And a lot of the times I've noticed with some of my friends and some of my clients that still have that mindset of needing to, and absolutely we're trying to move forward in our careers, but there needs balance, because I have some friends that are going to wake up and they haven't created space for a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to get to a stage where later on in life, and it's kind of like, do you want a partner? And you don't have to or not, but there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them kind of like turning around and going, I don't have space for anybody else in my life. It's me and my work, which is fine if that fulfills you and that's happy, and all the rest of that. There's no criticism to that. But I have been finding a lot of my clients are like, I really wish I'd like a partner, but I'm working 18 hours a day. I was like, you've got no
Yeah.
space for a partner. You've got
Yeah.
no space for a family. If you're working 18, 15, 12 hours a day, you haven't created the space for it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I want to talk about money, and I want to talk about a couple of things to kind of part introduce it. I feel like you're touching on their entire podcast in themselves, but it's like self love and self worth and looking after our bodies. It is like an underpinning like foundation of our sustainability and our happiness and our health.
Mhm.
And yeah, you touched on that really powerfully, that when we're compromising those things, like I experience as well, is that when you take that kind of non-negotiable part, your body's saying, this is non-negotiable. And you're like, it is. I'll do it for just a little bit more money or a lot more money. That, we do bad things to ourselves and it's not sustainable. I think the other really fascinating kind of Western cultural ideas we have is that it's like we tightly couple these incredible things like minutes. It's almost like 9 a.m. at 1 minute past 9 a.m. I need to have earned a certain amount of money. And so there's almost like an amount of money directly connected to and correlated with each second, each minute, each hour, each day, each month that goes by. And that if I'm not being productive, and productive is often what we see as an output, and others going, yes, Jon, you were productive, well done, or you're ignored, or whatever the response you get. And then you tightly couple your happiness to like 1 minute past 9, Jon earned, £5. Jon is now is currently on track to feel like he is worthy of himself, that he is that he has a degree of love for himself or not. And they are such dangerous paradigms that it still blows my mind, reflecting more on it. And I also remember going through this kind of business awakening where it's like, hang on, so I have an employer, right? So let's have a customer, and then I have me, and then there's an employer in between, and the employer is kind of convincing me that really without them I would be worth nothing, which kind of isn't true, because I know I've worked for other companies. Or maybe it's just like all companies, like everyone needs a company to work in, and then that's how they're valued, and that's still, as I say these things, they seem like nonsense. And so you take the company out of it, the middle person, and just you and your customer, whoever they are, whatever they're doing. Well, why wouldn't they pay you even for the things you were doing that you didn't like doing? Like, they were actually paying you. Like, they were literally other human beings giving you their money, but they were giving it through this proxy. And yeah, I think the biggest, I definitely resonate with the biggest fear was like the cash. Like, how am I going to pay for my bills? How am I going to just survive? And I did do some of the early maths, and I was like, oh, I could do 4 energy healing sessions a day, and then I would earn this much money. And it's like, oh, but what about holidays? That's 6 sessions. And then it's like, what about tax? I don't even know what the tax would be. I don't even know what I would charge. And then I started to work all this out. And my initial reaction was panic. It's like, that can't work. That's just never going to work. And I still look back at that moment in confusion, because it was ill thought through. And it was just this like kind of overreaction, like a panic to, well, if I just do really bad maths, I can panic myself about something that isn't true.
Yeah.
And I had to, and that was only last summer. And I had to go through like that realization that it's not as simple as that. And don't, as soon as you directly correlate every minute that you're doing, like pushing in this very masculine thing of like, I must create, I must like me, man, make fire. Like I must like do that thing. That's what brings in money. Like it's also not true. And the magic part, which no one can tell you, and you can listen to a million podcasts until you've stepped through that door of your fear, on the other side of it are things you could never have imagined. And that's the whole point, right? That's why you're scared of it. And sometimes it's our body, sometimes it's our mind, our ego. We're like, I'm terrified. I don't know what's on the other side of the door of uncertainty. I know, I don't care if it's my dreams. Like, I'm still too scared. And so many things happened for me when I stepped through the door. The first thing is like, I resigned I gave my notice in January. It was quite funny because I said, so January this year, I said, I'm leaving by the end of December. My manager was like, that's amazing. You're leaving the industry. That's incredible. Like, good luck. And that was the first shock to me that like my manager was excited for me. And I'm pretty sure she likes me. So it wasn't, and did at the time. So it wasn't like, yeah, he's going, like, one less problem. But that was a revelation. It's like, oh, hang on. Like it was a big moment for me and I've been building up to it and I was scared of doing it. And she's like, you should run like meditations at work, and you should like do some of these things, within the boundaries that we have contractually, etc. And like start to explore some of these things. And it's like, oh, thank you for your support. She even came to some of my meditations, which was fantastic. And the and then other really unexpected things happened, right? Like I'd resigned, and then that was kind of largely ignored by HR and other management. And then when there was changes happening organizationally, I said, maybe you'd make me redundant. And they're like, I don't even know how to do that. And it's not really a thing that's going on here. And I was like, well, we could find out. We could ask, right? We could log a ticket in the system and ask. And we did. And this is like a good message for people that have been in the job for a while. I was there 8 years. It's like, so even if things aren't happening, if it's your door of fear, not anyone else's, even if it isn't precedence for something, you can like step through up to the door, knock on it a bit, check out the size and shape, rattle it a bit, and say, well, maybe there's some things in here that will fall out that are actually quite magical and surprising if I just ask. And yes, I did get redundancy, and I was overjoyed. Then there's of course some bumps in the road, right? Like we still had our mortgage to pay off, and I was like, oh. And because my wife and I were so excited, we're gonna get redundancy, everything's gonna be amazing. We're gonna like, it's gonna be like kind of like age 47 where I am, be like coasting into early retirement, and everything's gonna be fine. And it was like, no, it's like who's gonna pay the mortgage? Like, you can't get a new mortgage on a business that doesn't exist yet. And so we took the decision to sell our holiday home, which was in part like a part of our retirement. And I know that not everyone gets redundancy, not everyone has a holiday home to sell. That was like a small business for us. But at every step, something magical happened. The redundancy was more than we expected. The terms were better than I expected. I got to leave stop physically working in April and leave the company in May instead of December. Mm-hmm. So that was like a huge release. I was like, are you serious? Like, I'm getting to like just do what I want. I can just do whatever I want. It's like, yeah, you'll be free. Like after May, do what you want. And then for our holiday house, our house was opposite two other houses in the same street that hadn't been on the market for a year. And so we're like, but what's the point? Like, we don't have, like, maybe we could wait here. I'm not even sure we have enough money to wait for a year. And is it going to sell? And we're going to get less. We're going to lose money, blah, blah. And then as soon as we asked an estate agent, they were just like in a different universe, right? They were just like, you're going to sell so fast. I'm like, how? And they said, well, it's a great property, right? It's like, yeah, but look at the other houses, like literally two opposite us. They've been there for a year. Oh, just ignore them. The market's actually really good. And we sold within 3 working days. We had offers like within the next day and 2 days after going on the market and viewings. And so it's opening yourself up to this kind of magical aspect, the mysterious magical aspect of the universe. The universe is actually trying to work for you. It's trying to support you, not sabotage you. And when we're on this side of the door of the fear, we feel like it's going to sabotage me. I'm going to open the door, fall off a cliff. That's it. We're done. But it's the opposite is true.
I think we're conditioned to look for the worst in life, and absolutely that in the past might have kept us safe, but it's kept us very limited. Mm-hmm. I agree with that, and it's. You asked me earlier, is it something that's ongoing? It's constantly ongoing in kind of like, how far can I stretch myself now? Is it possible to do this? And I think it's an ongoing of stretching boundaries or smashing them, because the more boundaries, the more restrictions, the more fear we have, the smaller our circle becomes. And I think it's about really, really starting to expand that, either, in all areas of our life. So it's constantly pushing and breaking through, okay, what is the next limitation? And a lot of the times in the Akashic records, I say, get used to being uncomfortable, because that's where you want to be, in that space of uncomfortable growth, because you're stretching those limited boundaries that we've created for ourselves. And yeah, it's very, very interesting in a sense of kind of like responding and saying, no, you know, example, traveling through the pandemic. They were told you're not allowed to travel. And I was like, who says I'm not allowed to travel? Like, what? I managed to go all the way to UK and back without having any issues. And I think we need to look at life like a game, as a challenge, kind of like, ooh, this is the next level. I wonder if I'm going to make it. Like, let's bring it, kind of a thing. Let's try that, and I think that we create kind of like with you and saying, okay, well, the market is doing this. Yeah, but you're not the market unless you want to be, kind of thing. So it's like, and we tend to manifest a lot of the times what we expect. And when you were talking, what was coming to my mind is, do you think that manifesting beyond what you expected do you think you did that because you upped your internal worth and value within yourself by choosing you? Do you think that happened because of that, or?
Yeah, I feel like it was a combination of things, and it was definitely like an overall direction that I was and continue to head and accelerate on. Some of those factors like self-love and self-worth, because I also knew that if I stepped through that door of fear and I left this corporate job, and I took with me my biggest Achilles heel, my kryptonite, my biggest challenge, which is overworking myself because productivity defines my self-worth. Like, I wouldn't last very long. My business would, it'd be lucky to get through my first year. And so one of the first things I did was like just acknowledging it and talking to people about it. And I asked people's opinions, and I did like my little world tour for a few days. And it was like, just find ways to face that fear. And it's almost like all these opposites are true, right? It's like, what do you do when you feel lack of money? Spend money. What do you do when you feel like you're working too hard all the time? Like, stop working like you do with your holiday, but then explore what you really want to do. Like training in mindfulness teaching and reflexology were like trying different jobs for me. And the other big thing for me was allowing the miracles to happen, allowing the impossible to become possible for me. I don't need it to come possible for the entire world, not yet, or all at once. It just needs to be okay for me. And I also had this realization that I'm not starting a company of 100, 1,000, 100,000, or last company was 1.8 million. It was like, I'm not. It's just me. I only need to pay me enough salary to look after me and my family. Like, it's not that hard, Jon. Like, you can do it. Other people do it. You can do it. And that was, I just woke up one morning. I think it was early December, and that was like mindset shift was like, maybe I could do this, and maybe there's more magic coming for me if I just allow it. If I allow it the space to come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if they say life turns out what you expect, not what anything else, but it's like, yeah, what you expect is what we create. And I think that's important. And I think once you start looking at, the universe is working for us, or, God create a source that's a collaboration. And then sitting in that space of, responding to what life throws at you, at the opportunities, and grabbing them. And not being scared to grab them. That's the other thing. The fear of grabbing these opportunities that show up because we don't know where they're going to. We don't have certainty of how they will complete.
Yeah. And I love like what you did. Like, when you're unsure about one like approach you can take, if you're unsure about money, go and talk to your customer, right? You don't even need to be entirely sure what it is that you're going to do. Like, you'll know them because when you talk to them, they'll share some of the needs that you're looking to fulfill. And when I started talking to people about, mindfulness training, and then going on to more advanced like psychic training, and I just met them face to face, and I met them in some of the classes that I was learning at, being a student at. And when I spoke to them, it's like, hey, I've got lots of questions for you about like, these sorts of things that you would like to be able to do, and what are the challenges you have. And are there any things, have you looked at anything similar? Like, do you know what the costs are for those? like that was kind of just at the end, was just like, what would that be? And it was always about just solving a customer problem, because it's so much easier as a human to think like that. So I can go and ask another human in person, and I can go and say, hey, what do you want? Because I can help.
Or our customers are always telling us as well. It's brilliant that you've said that. Like I've just had somebody recently come in and say, okay, can I do like a 12-week session with you, or like, every day, like, every day or whatever it is. And I was like, oh, I was like, you're the second person that's asked that. Maybe I need to
Wow.
create a 12-week mentorship program. And that's how a lot of my products are birthed, is because it's kind of like, it's that opportunity, that co-creation that's coming in, because some people it's need to do deeper work, and that's who I'm calling at the moment. And a lot of the times, on a spiritual sense, is like the work that we need to do within ourselves as well, which is absolutely brilliant. So that's the other thing that I did. I was like, I want to do this kind of like 21 days of releasing limitations. And how do I hold myself accountable for this? I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it out to my community. Who wants to run this with me? And we end up drawing a lot of people, and that's a co-creation, co-collaboration that is happening. And I'm enjoying doing that. And I get very curious, and absolutely see it as a open to receiving and open to seeing how things unfold. And I think that's what makes life exciting for me right now.
Oh, I really love that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love listening to. I found it quite shocking an experience, because there's kind of no company in between. When customers start, like they were saying to me when I was doing clinical reflexology, and they said, you do like psychic stuff as well, right, Jon? And without really knowing what it was, because I was still a little bit scared sometimes telling people, maybe they're going to run after with pitchforks and torches, and but no, trust your customers, right? And because they're there for a reason, and often it's like the universe talking through them. And they said, I think it was like 3 or 4 customers said, you could do more, like you could bring in more of these aspects of your work. We'd really love that. Could you offer it? And it's like, I didn't know how. I just didn't know how. And then what was the next thing that happened? I went to see one of my teachers, and they did some like mindfulness meditation and reflexology. And it's like, I've never seen that done before. You can do more than just what other people do, right? You can just like make it up yourself. You can innovate and use your customers as that guiding light. And the first couple of sessions I was just blown away. So it's like I already knew how to do it, but I just needed someone to ask for it. Like that blows my mind, and it was so much fun. That's a job I want. Like that's my job. I'm doing that now. So yeah, that's been a really beautiful experience. I am conscious of time. Before we go into the mindfulness meditation, is there anything else you'd like to share or ask, Natasha?
Yeah. I think to share is like, I love how what you were saying there is your customers are asking you to be more authentically yourself in all
Yeah, yeah,
aspects, right? Which is absolutely brilliant, because it brings us full circle into being who we are in this world. And it is a discovery, it's a constant shift, it's a constant change. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying exploring this with you. Thank you
oh,
for all the
fabulous.
sharing, because it resonates with me and so many of my clients for sure.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. Likewise. Okay, yeah. So it'll be a little bit shorter today, our mindfulness meditation. But yeah, let's go on a journey together.
Mhm.
So when you're ready, I'd like to take 3 deep breaths. So join me taking a deep breath in through the nose and breathe out nice and loud. And breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any low vibration, energy, or emotions, nice and loud. And once more, breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any fear, shame, anxiety, or stress. And continue to breathe deeply and calmly. Just allow your breath to flow in and out of your body at a rate and pace that feels just right for you at this time. And we're drawing our attention to our breath because there are beautiful lessons to teach ourselves and remind ourselves of in our breath. The first is abundance. And as you're breathing in gently through your nose or in through your mouth by now, I'd like you to reflect on an image of this entire world, this entire planet, and its ability to create an infinite amount of air for us to breathe. And have a think for a moment about where all this air is coming from. All the living things across this planet, all the plants and trees. And how this cycle of life as a planet never ends. It just continues to create this beautiful oxygen and air for us to breathe in. And if we are to remember one thing from today's meditation, it is that whenever we feel in lack, financially, lack of time, lack of love in our life, lack of love for ourselves, whatever it is we feel lack about, take a moment to take a deep breath in and just fill your stomach, your body with that beautiful breath of life. And you might want to do this several times. Maybe the 3 deep breaths that we had at the start will allow you to fill your body all the way out to your fingertips and all the way down to your toes and all the way up to the top of your head and down to the base of your spine. That every aspect of you is gently being nurtured and cultivated and fed by this beautiful air of this planet. And now I'd like you to also reflect for a moment on your body and on your life, your dreams, the dreams that lie ahead of you. I'd like you to imagine for a moment in your mind's eye that there is a future version of you about 3 years in the future. And this future version of you is living your dream life. These are all the goals that you want to achieve. These are all the things that make you happy, all the things that you need for yourself, and that you're with all the people that you want to be with. You're in a place where you want to be, and you're doing the things that you love the most. And this is your dream life that only you can define. This vision is a gift that only you can give yourself, just like only you can breathe in deeply for yourself. And I'd like you now to just transport your mind for a moment to that future version of yourself 3 years in advance. And you're living your dream life. And I'd like you to ask yourself a few short questions, after which I will leave a pause for you to answer. And the first question of this 3-year future version of you is, how does it feel living my dream life? And allow that answer to come into your heart, to come into your body. Allow your body to answer also. And the second question to ask this 3-year future version of yourself is, what are you doing? And the third question is, for this 3-year future version of yourself, living your dream life, is who are you with? And finally, the last question that you ask this 3-year future version of yourself is a collection of, where are you? Where do you live? What do you do each day? And as you've allowed yourself to answer these questions, and know that you can come back to this meditation anytime, or simply take a moment to journal some of these questions to yourself, I would like you to remember this feeling that you feel right now in your heart. That feeling could range from uncertainty, mystery, perhaps even a little fear, or all the way through to a really beautiful excitement, a joy, a level of happiness that perhaps you never thought was possible for you to achieve in this lifetime. Perhaps it's a job you never thought or believed could exist. It will exist when you create it. And where you're doing it, and who you're with, and how that makes you feel, how you make others feel. Allow your imagination to go wild and to believe that the impossible can be made possible by you. And as we come towards the end of this meditation, I'd like you to remember that there's this feeling in your heart, and it exists in this future version of you. And it is a level of joy and happiness and self-love that you've never believed was possible. And it's calling you, it's calling your name. It has a gravitational pull, and it's pulling you into it. This future version of you is pulling you forwards. And all those bumps in the road and those doors of fear that you'll step through, they are all part of the journey happening for you to help you achieve the very things that you desire in your dream life. And when you're ready, come back to your breath, come back to your body, back to your heart, and allow yourself to hold that feeling of joy for as long as you wish. And when you're ready, you can move a little and open your eyes and come back to us.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. I was so there. It's like, I think it's going to be amazing. And it's already amazing.
So you're already here. It's already here.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really powerful. I love how, I'm sure outside has got brighter for you. It's like, it's getting lighter and lighter after that meditation. But yeah, and thank you so much for everyone that's participated today. Thank you for watching. Please do share with anyone that you feel this would resonate with. And of course, if you want to become a guest, that'd be so cool to have you on, and we can chat about your experiences as well. And yeah, we look forward to sharing again with you next will be in a couple of weeks' time. So looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And if you know of any businesses that are already promoting an amazing kind of work-life balance, please let us know. We'd love to talk to them and look at their philosophy and how did they come up with with this and the importance that they've given it to actually implement it as well. So if you hear of any of that, please, please, please let us know. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Brilliant. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Thank you. Take care. Bye.